Hello everyone and welcome to the demo video for Recodez, which is a site for managing and generating code projects. I'm Lucas, the creator of Recodez, and in this video I'm going to be showing some example usages of Recodez so you can decide for yourself whether this site might be useful to you. For the first example, I'm going to be selecting the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript starter kit. And what starter kits allow you to do is it just gives you a basic setup, basic code base that you can then implement changes onto. As you can see, there's just basic styling, basic JavaScript, and basic HTML. And we're going to turn this code base into a new site of our choosing. In this case, I'm going to turn this into a snake game, complete with a list of features like, let's just say, replayability, high score tracking, and a colorful background. So to do that, we can select the regenerate content button and describe these changes. So we can say turn this into a snake game, complete with replayability, high score tracking, and a colorful background. If we submit that and wait a moment for it to generate those changes and implement those changes, you will see a new code base, hopefully fully implementing our features. We're going to be testing if it actually did it. As you can see here, it increased the generation count and modified the files to implement our new features. And if you want to see the changes that were implemented in the last generation, we can select the show changes button, and as you can see here, it modified all 3 files and gave you the input and output token information. We're going to hide those changes. We're going to download the project and we are going to full screen so we can extract, and we are going to open this in VS Code, and we're going to go live and see our project. As you can see here, we have a snake game, a working snake game that keeps track of our score at the bottom. There's a high score tracker, which I assume will, it increased as the game ended. And if we want to play again, we just select the play again button, and there you go. We have a snake game complete with the features that we described. Now, if we want to make some more changes, say we didn't like the background or we want it more colorful, we can make a modification to the CSS file. And this is where the generate currently selected file button comes into play. This button only regenerates the current file that you have selected. In this case, as we want to modify the styling, we would select the CSS file, we would hit the button, and as you can see here, it says a provide feedback for regenerating the selected file, which is the CSS file. And we can say make the background more colorful. Let's just say like a rainbow gradient. Just make it prettier overall. And this should just regenerate the current file, the CSS file. This won't actually increase our generation. That is only for regenerating the entire content. What we can do is copy these changes, go back to our CSS file, and paste in those changes, go back to our snake game, and as you can see here, we have a cool new changing background, which is really cool. And we have the same snake game as before, with our high score tracking and everything else, just with the new colorful background. And it's going to end, and we can play again, and it's the same as before. So yeah, this is the first example. And you can, the snake game is a good example for this, but you can have it implement whatever, maybe you want a tic-tac-toe game or a to-do list or whatever you want. It's up to you. And it'll make those changes for you. So yeah, thank you. Okay, so for the next example, let's try something a little bit more complicated, which is creating a code generator site using the OpenAI API. This is where I think Recodez is the most useful, and that I can get you up and running quickly with a good setup to continue your development. For this example, we're going to select the Next.js starter kit to base our changes off of. When working with Next.js codebases, Recodez has specialized support for modern Next.js features, such as root files, server actions, layout files, among other modern Next.js features. When crafting our prompt, what information does the LLM need to complete this application? Well, we are going to first need our task description, which in this case would be to make this into a quote generator site and show off, quote generator site using the GPT-4o API. Allow the user to input a theme for the quote to be generated based off of. And to show off more of Recodez's ability and the LLM's ability to create complete applications, could also add some more features and content, such as have a home page that introduces what this site is, with a link to the root / generate quote, where the quote will be generated. Make these roots navigatable to each other. Make this site pretty with a cool background and a cool UI. Make it look good overall. Just an ending styling description here. This is a description of the site and how we want it to look like, and all the features. There are also some further specifications that the LM will need to complete this application. First and foremost, we're going to need to incorporate into the prompt the GPT API key that the LM will then use to generate the quote. So we could say, use this open AI API key. We just have one copied over here. We just copy and paste that. We may also need to add specific directives to the LM in order for it to create the application to our liking. For example, in this case, we want to use the modern OpenAI node package to make our API calls. So we should say, make sure to use the modern OpenAI node package dependency like this. If you just have a basic example copied from the OpenAI docs. If we just submit this, shouldn't take too long to generate all the new files and incorporate the changes into this basic Next.js starter kit code base. Just give it a moment. As you can see, added a lot of files. If you can click the show changes button, and there's a list of these files, all the ones that were modified, all the ones that were added. As you can see, it's a complete development setup to continue developing on. So we have the OpenAI API key with the environment file added with the OpenAI API key, the necessary environment variable, and its value that we incorporated into the prompt. Just gonna change that back. We have the package automatically added to the package.json file. We have the generate quote route with the page.tsx. We have the generate quote file with all of the modern OpenAI package syntax. And we have the API key automatically incorporated into the package initialization. If we hide the changes and download the project, we can see for ourselves what was added. This was opened in another window. If we extract this and open it, exit that out. If we open up the terminal and say npm install to install the necessary packages, like the OpenAI package, just give it a moment to do that, and then run the application, we should have a complete code generator site with our list of features. So run dev here. Seems like it's up and running, installing dependencies, and it's good to go. It's ready. So if we, it's from a previous testing example. Here we go. So we have a little nav bar here with our links. We have a get started page, or a get started button here, which just goes to our generate quote button, as you can see in the bottom left corner, or we can click on the generate quote link directly. You can generate a quote with our desired themes. We could say hard work, and it should generate the quote. And right here, it just has a quote about hard work, or we could say love, showing off how you could use the site, home, little description at the bottom here. So this is a complete example of how we can describe and incorporate all aspects of our desired application into the prompt. And Recodes will use the LM to create your finished application that you can then use to continue developing, or just use by itself, depending on like whatever you want to do with it. And to continue your development, you could request more features here, like requesting more quotes at once, or changing the background, or whatever you want. You could add here to continue iterating on this and to finish the application to your liking. So that's it. Thank you. Now for this next example, I want to show off the file system or project structure level operations that Recodes is capable of, such as creating, deleting, and renaming files and folders. To do this, we're going to be creating a multi-language task automation project from scratch. Now by the time you see this, there will already be a starter kit with just an empty folder. But for now, just to show how you can drag and drop your own folders, I'm going to drag and drop an empty folder into Recodes. Just do that real quick from my other window. As you can see, we have an empty folder. So let's start by renaming this folder to a more appropriate name, like automation project. So we can say, rename this folder to the automation project. Just give it a moment. It will rename the folder. Now let's create our first folder of the project called Python scripts, which will hold all of our Python files. Inside of this folder, we're going to be creating 3 files: filecleaner.py, a script that deletes files of a certain extension like .tmp or .log files; dataaggregator.py, a script that aggregates CSV data and outputs a summary file; and emailsender.py, a script that sends automated emails to a list of recipients. So I'm just going to copy. I'm just going to say in the prompt, let's say add a folder called Python scripts. Inside this folder, just going to copy the 3 files and their operations from my other window just to save time. As you can see, it's just what I described all these Python files as being. So we just hit the submit button and wait for it to populate the project with this new folder and the new files. As you can see, it creates the 3 files with the appropriate content for email sending and all these other Python scripts. For our next folder, we're going to be creating a folder called bash scripts, which holds the bash script files that perform the system level operations. We will have 2 files inside of this folder: diskcleaner.sh, which deletes all files in the temp directory, and backupmanager.sh, which automates backup of a specific folder to a cloud storage location. So we're going to say add another folder called bash scripts inside this folder. I'm just going to copy again the 2 files and their descriptions. If we hit submit and wait for it to add these folder, here we go. So we have the bash scripts folder with the 2 files and the appropriate content in both of these. And for our third folder, we're going to create a folder called logs, which will be where all of our logs are stored. We're going to create 3 log files that track different purposes, that track different processes: system log.txt, operation log.txt, and backup log.txt. So we can say create another folder called logs inside this folder, add 3 txt files, and I'm just going to copy and paste the names of these. As you can see, it creates the logs folder with the 3 empty txt files. For our fourth folder, we're going to create a folder called test. Inside of this folder, we're going to create 2 subfolders for different types of test cases. One of those folders will be called unit test, and the other folder will be called integration test. Inside unit test, we're going to include a simple C file called math_test.c that includes a basic function for testing math operations like factorials or Fibonacci numbers. Inside of integration test, we're going to have a Python file called integration_test.py that simulates interaction between the Python scripts and bash scripts created earlier, like running a bash command from Python. So we're going to say add a new folder called test. Inside of this folder, add 2 folders called unit test and integration test. I'm just going to copy these 2 files and the descriptions and where to place them. So we just said inside unit test, create the C file and how I described it, and inside integration test, the Python file with the description of that file's content. So we hit submit. As you can see, it creates the test folder with the 2 subfolders with the 2 files that we described, like the Python file here and the C file, which test the Fibonacci and factorial, and this main function, and the integration test file that actually imports. So when creating content, Recodez, the LLM, knows that it knows the context of the other folders that have been added that are already in the project. So when creating this folder, it knows that the path is this one because it's what we created earlier with our bash scripts, which is pretty cool. Now that the core of the application is complete, we have our project set up with all of the necessary files. I'm not going to download and run any of these files in this example. This example is more to show off the basic project structure, CRUD operations such as creating, reading, updating, deleting, that you can do through Recodez. To show off some more operations, let's have Recodez rename the bash scripts folder the shell automation and rename the Python scripts folder the Python automation. So if we say rename, actually I'm just going to copy and paste from my script here, just to show you can quickly rename folders. These are things you would do in your IDE, no problem, but just to show that Recodez is also capable of doing this. I'm just going to show it off here, and also just to show what this can do. As you can see, besides renaming the 2 folders, it also modified the content of the Python file. And why would it do that? Well, it's because the LM knew that when we renamed the folder, we had to update the folder, update the folder path name in order for it to be accurately imported into this project. And to show a delete operation, I'm just going to say, let's just delete the logs folder. So let's say delete the logs folder, and it will delete the folder and all its content. Lastly, to show a move operation, I'm going to input the task to have the integration test file moved into the unit test folder. So we can say move the integration test file into the unit test folder. As you can see, it cleared the folder of its 1 file and moved it into the unit test folder. Now, to finish off this video, I'm going to show how you can save a project, and anywhere you are signed in, access this project and download and modify and do whatever you want with it. So if we say save this project as automation project and hit save, as you can see in the saved project section, you now have the automation project with all of the files and folders that we created earlier. And if we refresh the page to show that these changes are persisting, as you can see, the project is still here and you can still modify it to your liking. That's it for this example. Thank you.